Listen, it's our first 10 a.m. service, obviously this year, and we're excited to celebrate in all kinds of ways, including baptism. This is always a highlight for our faith community. Here's the thing that happens. Jesus one day walked down to the Jordan River and turned to a man named John the Baptist and said, I need to be baptized. And John the Baptist was a little overwhelmed by this, but he agreed to do it because Jesus needed to model for us that when we decide to follow him, when we decide to make him the Lord of our life, that this is something that we would include in our following of Jesus. And so Liam is here today to share his story because he's prepared to do this. Here's what Liam believes to be true, and this is always the question, really. And that is, do you believe that Jesus, in fact, is the Lord of your life? Has his life, his death, and his resurrection literally made him the Lord of your life, that you trust him for your life here and also for eternity? And do you intend to follow him for the remainder of your days? And this is the opportunity that we have. And so perhaps there's someone sitting here this morning that's thinking, boy, this is something that's been on my heart, and I'm not exactly sure what that looks like and how I might experience that. And so witness what happens today and consider whether or not this is something that you would want to participate in this faith community, for us to have the incredible honor to baptize you in this faith community. So, Liam, are you ready to share your story? We're excited to hear it. Let's give him some love, okay?
Hello, thank you. I'm very glad to be here with all of you, even though there's a part of me who's not very excited that I'm specifically right here up in front of all of you speaking. I think more of me is very glad that we're all here to do this together. So I've been going to this church my whole life, and growing up I had following Jesus modeled by my parents and many other adults in my life. However, I also always had very big questions. I generally like to know as much as I can about something before I sign up or claim it as something that's really a part of me. And while these questions were never enough to outright turn me away from the story of Jesus, they were definitely enough to cause me some inner turmoil. I spent a long time feeling like my questions and the strife they caused me was evidence of my lack of faith. I didn't feel like I was allowed to express unsavory feelings like confusion, hopelessness, and anger. I was afraid if I expressed myself, that somehow people would clue in to something that I had really begun to fear was true, that I wasn't a real Christian, that I didn't have enough faith to really be a part of all this, that a part of me was broken. I had led myself into very deep feelings of alienation and inadequacy. I felt stuck, just hoping that one day a light would go on and I'd have faith, that one day the answers that I did have would be enough to finally take the step. As I grew up, that hope waned, and I felt further and further away from whatever faith was. Unsurprisingly, Jesus persisted. His story simply would not leave me alone. It's hard to describe, but it was like it was etched on the inside of my skull. Everywhere I looked, I could see its ramifications. I thought about his love every time I thought about my own and the way that I loved others. I found that when I show up in the world like someone who's been impacted by this story, things seem to go better for me. Not that all of a sudden I was immune to life's hardships, but that when storms came my way, I had some firmer ground to stand on. I had a game plan. And something felt truer about this story than even the most basic truths I had come to know. I realized that yes, I will never run out of questions to ask. And yes, this life will have no shortage of uncertainty to it. And yes, sometimes that uncertainty will feel like it's all too much for my mind to bear. But when seasons like this hit my mind, I have a truth that satisfies my heart. And I mean heart in a real biblical sense, the Hebrew word being lev. The Bible writers would have had an understanding of the heart that was a bit more like the brain. It was the center of your soul, the place that held your identity, your thoughts, your feelings, and where you made your decisions. Claiming this broader conception of truth for myself transformed the way that I thought about faith. Faith was no longer collecting enough answers that I felt intellectually satisfied enough to follow Jesus. Faith became, each day, deciding to give the story of Jesus' love full reign over my heart. I'm not perfect at it, but I have found the example I want to follow. and his example started with a baptism. So it's as simple as that.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, oh, we live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Worth is the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you.